Summer 1967, as the golden sun sank over rural Arkansas. Thomas Eckhart's life was set to change forever. A dusty mailbox delivered his selective service notice, a single sheet of destiny stamped with bureaucratic finality. The war felt distant until his name was called. Tom's pre-military life was simple. Morning chores on the family farm, high school football, quiet dinners with his widowed mother. He'd always been a protector, shielding his younger sister Ellie from boys twice her size and running down coyotes from the henhouse. Tom's sense of duty stemmed from these roots: family honor, grit, loyalty. But war was another world. Fort Jackson's boot camp chewed him up. Drill Sergeant Marty O'Hara, an ex-Marine with thunderous lungs, shaped Tom and his platoon into steel. Halfway through, Tom met Corporal Valerie Banks, a former nursing student from Chicago turned Army medic. With quick wit and steady hands, she became a pillar in the squad, someone Tom came to rely on amid the chaos. On the eve of deployment, Tom's best friend and squad mate, Specialist Ricky Moyers, confessed his unease. "I just want to come back alive. Don't know how I'll manage all this killing." Tom understood. "We do what we must to keep each other safe," he said, uncertain but resolute. Their division shipped out. The C-130 military transport flew into monsoon clouds and uncertainty. As the engines whined and men clutched letters from home, Tom stared outside, into the future, into destiny. Hooks. Tom's call to arms, close ties to home, boot camp transformation, strong comrades, looming fears as deployment begins. Arriving near Pleiku, Vietnam, Tom's squad was assigned to the 4th Infantry Division. The jungle heat and smell hit with force: wet earth, gun oil, rot, and sweat. Valerie set up her aid station, joking, "Home sweet home," as helicopters chopped overhead. The squad's first mission: patrol the dense Ia Drang Valley, notorious for ambushes and shifting alliances. Tom felt every muscle tense, senses alive to every crackle and buzz. Ricky flanked him, eyes wide. Without warning, gunfire erupted from the canopy. VC fighters emerged from nearly invisible trenches, muzzle flashes, screaming orders. Tom dove for cover, bullets stitching tree trunks beside him. Valerie raced forward, dragging a wounded sergeant behind a rock, brilliant in her calm as she applied a compression bandage under fire. Tom saw a teenage Vietnamese villager trapped near crossfire. In seconds, he vaulted through gunfire, swept the boy to safety. Ricky laid suppressing fire, his voice a brittle bark, his hand shaking. The firefight ended with 3 U.S. wounded and 4 VC dead. Back at the firebase, Tom couldn't forget the boy's face. Their CO, Captain Bradley, praised his courage, but warned, "This war leaves scars, on soldiers and civilians alike. Don't let it change who you are." The team's friendship deepened. Valerie, writing her mother, said, "I've never seen men like these, willing to risk all for someone they've never met." But the tension was constant, and fear began to stalk every night's sleep. Hooks. First battle, saving civilians under fire, growing squad bonds, Tom's heroism and moral dilemma, Captain's somber warning. After weeks of skirmishes, intelligence arrived. U.S. pilots down near the Cambodian border, presumed alive and possibly captive. Tom's platoon was tasked with a covert nighttime extraction. With blackened faces, the squad trekked through dripping jungle, avoiding VC patrols. Ricky's nerves frayed with every snapping twig. Valerie moved with practiced efficiency, her M16 close, medic kit slung tight. Tom's mind raced, thinking of home and praying every move was the right one. They reached a ramshackle hut deep in the woods. Dim lanterns revealed 2 battered pilots, one unconscious. Tom and Ricky covered the main door as Valerie assessed injuries. She whispered, "We have minutes, tops." Outside, the eerie silence broke. Alarm cries, enemy shouts. Suddenly, gunfire shattered the night. VC converged from every direction. Tom barked orders, "Fall back." The team fired, grabbed the pilots, and sprinted through tangled roots. Ricky was grazed in the arm. Valerie nearly tripped carrying the injured man, her determination fiery. At the extraction point, the helicopter swooped down, rotors lashing rain and mud. RPGs struck near misses as the squad dove aboard, hearts hammering. Tom locked eyes with Valerie, a promise. They'd each risked everything for strangers. For days afterward, Tom couldn't sleep. Valerie confessed privately, "The lines blur in war. I keep asking myself, where does mercy end and survival begin? Hooks, tense, secret mission, daring rescue, edge-of-seat firefight, psychological toll, Valerie's haunting question. Mid-1968 brought more than gunfire. It brought moral tests. Tom's squad was assigned to protect a Montagnard village from VC intimidation. Intel was clear. The area teemed with booby traps and spies. The squad arrived to find villagers terrified, their homes burned, leaders missing. Captain Bradley ordered strict security, but Valerie argued to offer medical assistance freely. People don't just need weapons, they need dignity. Tom and Ricky set up perimeter patrols, rescuing a wounded woman from a destroyed hut. Ricky looked around at children playing amid ruins, asking, "Are we really the good guys?" Tom replied, "We do what we can right now. That's all anyone can demand." Suddenly, an explosion. VC sappers tried a nighttime raid. Tom rallied his squad, returning fire, pushing the attackers back. The villagers' trust grew, but so did danger. Intelligence suggested a traitor among the villagers. Captain Bradley faced Tom with a grim order: interrogate suspected sympathizers. Tom hesitated. All he saw were frightened people. Valerie dared Tom, "Follow orders or follow your heart. Which one's right?" Tom chose compassion, questioning villagers with care, refusing violence. They uncovered a hidden radio transmitter. The traitor was a young boy forced by the VC. Tom shielded him, convinced the command to seek alternatives. Bradley relented, but warned, "War wants to turn us into monsters. You have to fight to stay human." Hooks, moral dilemmas, compassion over command, undercover sabotage, tension between humanity and brutality, Tom's defiance. January 1968 unleashed the Tet Offensive. Saigon and outposts everywhere were hammered by a coordinated VC and NVA assault. Tom's squad was tasked with defending a key artillery position outside Hue. Explosions racked the camp at dawn. Mortars, rockets, gunfire. Tom fought exhaustion and terror, barked orders, shifted defensive lines as waves of attackers crashed the wire. Ricky fired until his gun jammed. Valerie crawled through incoming fire, patching wounded, screaming, "Move!" over the thunder. A squad member, Private Leslie, was pinned and bleeding out. Tom dashed through shrapnel and bullets, dragging Leslie to cover. Valerie's hands worked magic under fire, saving his life. A breach threatened the camp. Tom rallied a last stand, grenades, flares, near hand-to-hand combat. Victory came at a cost. Casualties littered the ground. When the smoke cleared, Tom looked at the devastation. American and Vietnamese, friend and foe. There were no easy answers. Valerie sat beside him in the dawn's hush, voice trembling. "We see the worst. It's our job not to let it become all we are." Tom squeezed her shoulder, silent but knowing. The victory was Pyrrhic. The squad was decorated for valor, but Tom felt each ribbon wrapped around fading innocence. The fury of Tet left scars where hope had been. Hooks, all-out attack, relentless defense, life and death rescues, brutal combat, the cost of victory, deeper emotional impact. The weeks following Tet were eerily quiet, as if the jungle itself mourned the thousands lost. Tom found solace in the nightly routine, checking the perimeter, polishing boots, rereading his mother's creased letters. But the fallout from the offensive shadowed everything. Friends gone, faces missing, memories that refused to fade. Ricky, always talkative, now sat alone, fingers trembling as he cleaned his rifle for the 5th time in an hour. One dusk, Tom confronted him near the sandbags. "We did what we could," Tom offered softly. Ricky shook his head. "Did we? Leslie's alive, but he lost his leg. I keep seeing the eyes of that VC. He couldn't have been older than 17. I shot him before he fired. I don't know if I had a choice, Tom." Tom put a hand on his friend's shoulder, feeling the weight of every decision, every order. The squad was tasked with patrols in freshly taken territories on the outskirts of Hue. The devastation was immense. Temples reduced to rubble, burning homes, families searching for loved ones. Valerie took extra time with the civilians, bandaging wounds, translating for the Army's Civil Affairs Unit, and teaching children simple first aid. Her kindness was a rare balm in a wounded land. One evening, a grateful villager brought Valerie a faded bouquet, bowing deeply. You bring hope, he said. Her smile was tinged with sadness. I wish we could do more. Tom watched her, knowing they were building something human, even amid destruction. Hidden in the joy was a new threat. Intelligence briefed the squad, NVA units massing in the north, preparing for counterattacks. For Tom, the quiet was only another kind of storm. Hooks, post-tet trauma, guilt and coping, moments of hope, foreshadowing new enemy threats, bonds between characters tested. Tom's squad, depleted but resolute, was ordered to reinforce the Marine base at Khe Sanh. The journey by convoy was perilous, roads mined, jungle thick with threat. Valerie treated a child for malaria at a remote checkpoint, while Ricky slept fitfully against the ammo crates, haunted by dreams he refused to share. At Khe Sanh, the siege was relentless. Mortars and artillery battered the perimeter day and night. Foxholes turned to muddy pits as rain poured without mercy. Marines and army grunts shared cigarettes and gallows humor, swapping stories of home. One fog-shrouded morning, enemy sappers sliced through concertina wire. The alarm blared. Tom was jolted awake, boots already lacing as rifle fire erupted. The squad stumbled into trenches, grenades bursting, the air thick with cordite and screams. Valerie, dragging a wounded Marine, slipped into a shell crater. Tom leapt in after her, shielding them from shrapnel. The Marine, young, clutching a blood-soaked photo, whispered, "Tell my mama I tried." Valerie pressed her hands to his chest, eyes fierce. "You're not dying today." Ricky fired over the sandbags, holding the line as more NVA poured through breaches. It was close. Too close. At dawn, the attackers finally retreated, leaving bodies tangled in barbed wire. Tom caught his breath, spots dancing before his eyes. Only then did he realize Ricky, usually the comic, was weeping. Something inside had finally broken. Hooks. Siege at Khe Sanh. Brutal close combat. Teamwork under fire. Valerie and Tom's heroics. Ricky's breakdown. A glimpse into human cost. With the siege finally lifted, Tom's squad returned to Da Nang for rest and resupply. But rest was elusive. The barracks, once filled with banter, was now silent. Ricky stared at his bootlaces for hours. Tom overheard two new recruits whisper, "Cursed outfit." Valerie found Tom by the mess tent one muggy evening. She held out a letter with trembling hands. Her father, a Chicago firefighter, had died in a blaze. Her voice broke. "I don't think I'll ever see home again, or if home will recognize me." Tom listened. "We'll get there. We'll just be different," he said, searching for certainty in his own words. A replacement squad leader, Lieutenant Davis, fresh from officer candidate school, bristled with rules and certainty. His first patrol led them into a suspected minefield, ignoring warnings from the local ARVN guide. Halfway through, a mine detonated, blowing the leg off Private Knox. Davis froze. Valerie took over, barking orders, saving Knox's life. That night, Tom confronted Davis. "You nearly got us all killed. Out here, you listen to those who know." Davis, pride wounded, threatened Tom with a formal reprimand. Tom stood firm. "Report me, sir, but you're not getting us killed on your learning curve." Discipline cracked but did not break. The squad looked to Tom and Valerie, their quiet leadership more valuable than any stripe. Hooks. Grief and personal loss, incompetent new leadership, disaster narrowly averted, Tom and Valerie's growing command, squad loyalty shifting. The war had changed, not just firepower, but whispers and shadows. NVA night raids and booby traps gave way to psychological warfare, stories of ghost soldiers, villagers disappearing quietly at night, rumors of spies in U.S. ranks. Tension simmered. Every Vietnamese companion eyed warily, every local guide a question mark. Tom and Valerie were assigned a dangerous operation, track and neutralize a VC informant embedded within U.S. supply lines. The mission required deception and trust, posing as civilian contractors, blending into convoys. The operation unfolded at night. Ricky, unsteady but clutching at purpose, watched for signs at the depot while Valerie sifted through medical manifests for patterns. Tom posed as a driver, observing, listening, waiting for a slip. After days of careful surveillance, the traitor revealed himself, using coded signals near the fuel trucks. As Tom quietly called backup, the informant noticed, drawing a pistol. It turned frantic. Ricky tackled the spy. Valerie subdued him with a deft arm lock. Tom whipped out his sidearm. Clamoring MPs arrived just as the informant shrieked, "You don't belong here! None of you!" In the aftermath, shaking with adrenaline, Tom realized the hardest enemy to face wasn't always in the trees, but sometimes in your own camp, in the mirror. Ricky, for the first time in weeks, grinned shakily. "Guess I still got it. Sort of." Hooks. Paranoid tension. Counterintelligence operation. Spy and supply lines. Teamwork in crisis. Ricky's return to himself. Shifting nature of warfare. Fragments of news from home became lifelines. Valerie received a photograph. Her younger sister with her newborn, a baby she'd never met. Tom clung to a dog-eared letter from his mother, describing how Ellie was learning to drive the pickup and the canning went badly that fall. Ricky was less fortunate. His fiancée had broken things off, unable to wait any longer. He masked it with humor, but the pain hung heavy. "Promise me, Tom, if anything happens, you tell my folks I was brave, okay?" Tom nodded. "We all are, Rick." With downtime rare, the squad built small rituals. Valerie read aloud from battered novels, weaving other worlds into jungle nights. Tom strummed the guitar traded for cartons of smokes, his voice a soft anchor. Nightly radio broadcasts from Armed Forces Network, fragments of Motown, the Beatles, world news, felt like precious scraps of home. News from America was volatile. Protests, assassinations, a growing sense that the war was unraveling. The squad debated in whispers. "Do they hate us now?" Valerie questioned, eyes wet. Tom replied, Maybe they just hate the war. I just want to see Arkansas sunrise again." Their time in the jungle had carved them, but inside, hope stubbornly clung. "Let's get home," Tom whispered to the starlit sky. "Let's just get home." Hooks. Homesickness. Letters from loved ones, loss and yearning, squad rituals, America's upheaval, deepening personal resolve. Summer 1969 brought changes. ARVN units took more responsibility, and U.S. troop withdrawals began. Tom's squad found themselves training South Vietnamese soldiers, bridging language gaps and teaching battle tactics. Valerie struggled to explain medical basics without words, relying on gestures and the universal language of compassion. She began to see resilience in the young ARVN trainees, boys no older than her patients back home. Ricky, slowly recovering his humor, bonded with an ARVN sergeant over a shared love of music. "No matter where you go, there's always someone who loves the Stones," he joked, strumming Tom's battered guitar. But distrust lingered. Some Americans doubted the ARVN's resolve, and locals wondered if their protectors would abandon them. After a skirmish on a joint patrol, one ARVN soldier, wounded and terrified, reached for Tom's hand, whispering, "Don't leave us." Tom promised, "We'll do what we can, for as long as we're here." The squad's sense of purpose was challenged. Were they leaving behind allies or escaping a war that had outgrown meaning? Ricky asked over rations. "What was it all for, Tom?" Tom stared into the fire, wishing he knew. Hooks. Transition to Vietnamization. Squad teaching ARVN, growing bonds and doubts, the question of purpose, personal promises. With withdrawals accelerating, the squad was tasked with one last rescue, a downed Medevac helicopter in a heavily mined valley. Intel insisted survivors waited, but time and patience were running out. At dusk, Tom's team navigated minefields, picking their way with painstaking care. Valerie led, eyes sharp for tripwires. Ricky covered the rear, his jokes muted but present. Reaching the crash site, they found the pilot, gravely wounded, legs broken, barely conscious. The gunner, dead. Valerie worked quickly, Tom and Ricky setting a perimeter as distant gunfire echoed. The squad egressed with the pilot on a makeshift litter, hearts pounding as mines detonated behind them. Each explosion, a reminder of their luck, of lives on a razor's edge. Back at base, command congratulated them, but Tom saw little cause for celebration. "We're not just risking ourselves, we're risking what's left of us inside," he murmured to Valerie. She handed him a faded bandage. Sometimes all we can do is stop the bleeding. Hooks, dangerous rescue, minefield tension, high cost of survival, emotional toll, restless sense of accomplishment. Orders came. Tom's squad would escort civilian relief workers out of Quang Tri before final evacuation. Rockets hit the outskirts daily. A convoy of battered trucks waited, loaded with orphans, aid workers, wounded villagers. Ricky made faces for the children as they drove, jokes lifting spirits in the tense silence. Valerie directed medical evacuations, refusing to leave until the last patient was aboard. Tom's eyes scanned the horizon, haunted by any sign of threat. Halfway out, a roadblock, local militia, desperate and armed, begging supplies. Tom negotiated, offering food and medicine, diffusing a standoff that could have erupted in violence. Safe at the border, relief workers embraced the soldiers. "You could have shot us. Instead, you stayed human," one said. Tom's voice was rough. "If we leave anything behind, I hope it's that." The squad watched as the trucks disappeared, hearts heavy and proud. Hooks, evacuation drama, children and civilians at risk, negotiation over violence, final acts of humanity, squad's internal pride. Orders for departure arrived. There was no parade, only a dawn flight. Tom packed with trembling hands, Ricky's humor gone somber. Valerie hugged each teammate. "You saved us, more than you know," she whispered to Tom. The flight out was quiet. Tom stared at the window as Vietnam shrank below, the jungle a distant mystery. He gripped letters from home, a talisman against forgotten pain. Stateside, the squad was met not with applause, but with protesters. "Baby killers!" screamed from busy streets. Tom, uniform pressed, felt shame and confusion. Valerie heard a woman curse her. Ricky was spat on. "Why does it feel lonelier here than it did there?" Ricky quipped, hiding tears. Tom returned to Arkansas, finding Ellie grown, his mother older. The familiar world seemed foreign, the quiet, somehow menacing. The war followed him in dreams, in the smell of rain, in the silence of unasked questions. Hooks, departure and return, mixed emotions, difficulties of reintegrating, alienation and protest, home changed by absence. Civilian life was its own war. Tom worked the farm by day, grappling with memories by night, flashbacks, startle responses, guilt for friends lost. The VA counseling sessions were slow, often frustrating. Ellie pleaded, "You're safe, Tommy. You're home." Valerie wrote from Chicago, news of her new nursing job, struggles with insomnia and doubt. Ricky called, voice thin across the line, speaking of dreams and fighting through college classes. One rainy night, Tom saw a car wreck down the road. He raced out, drawing on all he'd learned. Quick assessment, triage, calm in chaos. He saved a life, and neighbors began to see him less as damaged, more as someone forged in crisis. He volunteered at a local clinic, channeling pain into purpose. Each month, he met with other vets, sharing stories, nightmares, slow healing. He built a small memorial for friends lost, a stone, wildflowers, old dog tags. When asked about his service, Tom finally answered, "I did what I could with what I had, and I'm trying to keep doing that every day." Hope flickered, small, unsteady, but real. Hooks, struggle with trauma, post-war identity, community recognition, healing through service, final acceptance, the possibility of hope. As months passed, Tom began to seek out other veterans in his town. At first, their meetings were awkward, coffee shared in silence, glances heavy with mutual understanding. But stories emerged, war jokes, heartbreaks, even laughter at absurd Army bureaucracy. Tom found someone familiar, Private Leslie, the wounded comrade whose life Valerie had saved. Leslie, now using a prosthetic, helped organize softball games and fundraising for wounded veterans. "Some days I wake up and remember firefights. Other days I remember your heroics, man," Leslie joked, clapping Tom on the back. Ellie, Tom's sister, helped him reconnect with local life. She dragged him to Sunday dances and town picnics. Bit by bit, Tom learned how to smile without guilt. His mother, once worried, told neighbors, "Tom's home, changed, but home." Small acts of kindness, a repaired tractor, a shared meal, a late-night talk, became pillars that kept Tom anchored. Though the war cast long shadows, Connections in the community helped lighten his burden. Hooks, veteran support network, reunion with Leslie, family ties strengthening, gradual social reintegration, finding meaning outside of trauma. One unexpected spring, Valerie visited Arkansas on her cross-country nursing retreat. She arrived at Tom's farm with rain in her hair and a tired smile. "I needed to get out of the city for a while," she confessed, sharing stories of hectic ER nights and restless dreams. Tom and Valerie rekindled a quiet bond, planting tomatoes, walking the river, playing cards with Ellie and the neighbors. Valerie opened up about the difficulty of letting go. Tom revealed his private memorial stone. One night, they talked about the war's legacy. "I still see faces, both those I saved and those I couldn't," Valerie admitted. Tom squeezed her hand. "You gave dignity." Their friendship grew, deepening to a gentle, bittersweet love, one built on survival and understanding. Hooks, Valerie visiting, deepening relationship, healing together, honesty about the past, hopeful reconnection. Ricky, still wrestling with his own ghosts, moved to Little Rock for college. He visited Tom's farm on weekends, bringing stories of campus, protests, and funny run-ins with professors. "I bombed my draft paper but aced history. Go figure, huh?" Tom laughed, sharing the comfort of quiet country evenings. Ricky found purpose mentoring troubled youth at a local community center. Some of these kids have seen violence, poverty, maybe not war, but close. He admitted the darkness lingered, but saw hope in small victories. A kid choosing school over gangs, a parent finding work. Tom and Ricky's bond, forged in firefights, now supported each other in life's battles. Hooks, Ricky's college struggles, work with youth, bonds between friends, new victories, hope after hardship. On Memorial Day, Tom organized a ceremony at the local park for all Vietnam veterans in his county. He spoke quietly, surrounded by families, veterans young and old, and the lonely stones marking those who went. Valerie returned for the event, holding Leslie's hand as he limped to place flowers. Ricky led a rendition of taps on his harmonica, the notes trembling in the morning air. Tom shared memories, his friends' bravery, the sacrifices made, and the hope that the world might heal and remember. After the ceremony, local students approached, asking questions. Valerie told them, "War is never just old stories. It's people, choices, and scars." The event brought closure to some and new understanding to many more. Hooks, memorial ceremony, collective memory, education for youth, closure, the living honoring the dead. Years passed. Tom's PTSD faded into manageable shadows, never gone but rarely overpowering. He became a local leader, trusted, wise, quietly strong. His memorial stone grew, surrounded by wildflowers and handwritten notes from visiting families. Valerie eventually decided to stay, taking a job at the county clinic and living nearby. Their partnership remained gentle, supportive, a daily reminder that healing is possible. Ricky earned a teaching certificate, helping generations of students navigate the world's uncertainties with wit and kindness. Ellie married, and Tom gave her away at a sunlit church, pride shining through tears. His mother, elderly but vibrant, saw her family strengthened by adversity. On quiet porch nights, Tom reflected, the war had shaped him, but could not define him. Hope had come home. Hooks, long-term recovery, leadership, and legacy, enduring friendship and love, family milestones, hope, and peace after war.